Okay, we are live streaming.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Charmin, it feels like a lifetime since I've seen you.
I know, I know, just merely what, a short 12 hours?
It's like winning that lottery where they stone you to death at the end, right?
You
Keep getting
have
us
put
money.
on some miles since then.
Yeah, I got home better than I thought. I got home a little bit before 10 last night, so better than I thought it'd be.
Goodness. All right.
Good morning, Charmin. Can you see and hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Thank you.
And we have President Carter on, and we are live streaming.
Great. Thank you. Good morning.
Dave Rice, and I'm here.
Great. Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
This Ray, can you hear me okay? All right,
Yes.
good, thank you.
You guys hear me?
Yes. Thank you, Richard.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry I don't have a functioning camera in here.
That's okay. If there's questions, you can answer. Thank you. I think we are waiting for at least one more. Chair Sneeden, and I think we need one more for quorum.
Good morning, Curtis is here.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you
Pretty
doing?
out there. Well, I'm doing fine. I hate to complain, but it seems with every passing year, my body gets a little more offended by the microscopic things floating around in the air. I've never had hay fever traditionally, but since my
wow.
mid-50s, every spring is a little more trying. So, but let's not complain about that.
I guess I got that to look forward to when I finally reached my 50s. So
Yeah, well.
thanks for giving me a heads up there, Curtis.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot I could warn you about, Ray. That's funny.
But the weather's certainly better than a couple weeks ago.
No
Man,
kidding.
I'll tell you. I just don't know how people live in the northern latitudes where it's dark a relatively long period of the time. When we go through those periods where it's 2 or 3 days or a week or two of just gray skies, I mean, I just kind of crawl in a hole and you don't want to be around me. I just get really, really kind of blue. But oh well.
I'm making notes, Curtis.
I'm being vulnerable with y'all this morning. So you said we're waiting for one more person? Or where are we at here?
Vera, you're muted.
Ouchie, sorry. We need one more member for quorum. We have member Rick, Vice Chair Rice, and you, Chair Sneeden. We need just one more so that we can vote today.
Vera told me if nobody else shows up, you guys would allow me to vote. So I think that stands.
Yeah, might need to review that bylaw provision. I'm not quite sure. That's how it may read that way. I'm not sure that's what anybody meant.
Chair Sneeden, let's not look into it. Let's just trust the facts and move forward.
Let's ask forgiveness, not permission here. Well, is there anything on the agenda that does not require action? I think everything does, doesn't it? Well, 3B, I think is kind of short and sweet and does require action, correct? 3A, were we going to try to take action as a body here, or could we potentially launch into the discussion of that? That's kind of the meat of our meeting this morning.
I was going to recommend we could certainly discuss, and then if we did not have another member show up, we could have the discussion about the grants, but then do the vote during the TEA if we needed to. And the task group discussion for Excellency TE is really not an action today, except to ask our partners in the community and technical colleges to take away some action items. So
I think member Zimmer just joined. I think we have quorum and we can move on.
Okay, good. Well, let's call this meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee to order. Good morning to all of you. I would accept a motion to approve the minutes from our October 17th meeting.
This Ray, so move.
Thanks, Ray. Is there a
Second.
second?
Dave?
Thank you, Dave. I prefer to vote in Zoom kind of in the negative, so I'll assume you all approve that unless somebody voices a negative vote. Hearing none, that motion is approved. Let's move on to item number 3A, which is our discussion about the Excel and CTE funds in the task group we're considering here. So, Charmin, would you like to entree that topic?
Sure, a quick introduction. So we'll all recall that during the January TEA meeting, we had a pretty robust discussion about the Excel and CTE fees. Ultimately, it was recommended that we take a deeper dive. The issue paper is provided as a starting point, providing some background information and so forth. In 2019, a small group was created then as well, with representatives from the community and technical colleges and KBOR staff. They met to set the guidelines for fees, which ultimately resulted in that allowable fees and unallowable fees listings that you see there. We've also included then, starting on the second page, you've got the TEA goal that we set last year. And we also provided some excerpts from the last 3 years of the Excel and CTE fee reviews, which all had various stages and different kinds of activities going on, taking kind of a deeper look. So to try to help facilitate that, I would just offer up first and foremost, the chart on the next page is a draft. It is just a starting point because this is not the first meeting of that task group. We need to determine membership, and this was created as kind of a placeholder just to try to capture some of the discussion items that we've had, some of the different things that have come up over the years, and then also give us kind of a feel for some of the milestones that we would need to have in mind. So like I said, this is just a beginning, but yeah, I think the first thing is to sort of decide or like I said, ask our community and technical college representatives to take away the task to pardon me, to either volunteer themselves or nominate we're thinking a president from the community colleges and the technical colleges. We're thinking that maybe a finance officer from each one might also be helpful to add to a few of us as KBOR staff to help provide support, and the Budget Finance Committee. That's my
If I may set a little bit of a ground rule here or ground philosophy, I'd like to be very, very clear that from my point of view, this is not a slow, steady progression towards this body's micromanagement of the institutions in any sense. It is simply apparent that as this data is collected year in and year out, it comes in a way that makes it fairly hard to analyze across the system and enable the TEA to feel that they're making, meaningful approval decisions about what's really going on out there. And so improving that system, make sure everybody's means the same thing when they enter certain types of fee elements, and just getting it to where we feel like we can trust that well, I don't want to say trust, it's not a trust matter, but know that data has a consistency that enables us to make good decisions. It's, so there seem to be some types of expenses that are worth talking about because it's hard to understand why they wouldn't be uniform across the system if we're talking about third-party test fees or something. But there are a lot of other fees that are, unique, and the schools have their reasons for setting them that way. We just need the data input to be such that we're able to make better sense of it. And we wouldn't think of doing that without having representatives of the community here with us to help us through that. So that's my kind of starting point of view on what we're trying to do here.
This is Dave. I up in the top box, identify the group goal, reduction of all actual Excel and CTE fees to the lowest dollar possible. And I understand that because we don't want to strict access for students and so forth. But is there someone, is it the Board of Regents, is the legislature actually giving us that charge? Or is that just, I mean, I understand the goal and I agree with it, but at the same time, colleges got to be able to operate. So, but is there someone saying to us, lower those fees as much as you can? I mean,
I
I
would
like
just,
that.
go ahead.
Well, I like that question. I think I asked that question a couple of weeks ago, too, Dave. I don't know that any of us is principally, in principle, opposed to the idea that these fees, we ought to try to, driving them down is better than having them inexorably go up. But exactly where that comes from, it was a little murky to me. So Charmin, were you gonna answer that?
Sure. I would say that that goal comes from a number of directions. Feedback from parents that has been brought forward on occasion to the board, and I know to others. The discussions that we've had over the last several years during the TEA fee reviews. Again, just a draft. It's not etched in stone or anything like that, but to kind of try to very clearly identify the goal here was the reason that we were offering that up. It is, I would say it is staff perception certainly that the TEA goal is to find a way to not only review and approve annually, but to find ways to decrease those fees as much as is possible.
Mr. Chairman, could I say something?
Yes, sir.
And I think Seth will probably agree, because we feel this from a lot of sides of all the players. To me, that proposed goal, I would offer a revision that the goal is to review and confirm that all actual Excel and CTE fees are appropriate to ensure quality and efficiency. There's all this talk of efficiency, but if we're not effective, efficiency doesn't matter. So I think we need to make sure that part of what the group's goal is to ensure that we're providing quality instruction, not the cheapest board in the lumberyard, but at the same time we are being efficient.
I would offer up as well. Again, this is a draft. This was kind of to start the conversation. So I would also offer up that ultimate goal would probably be something that we need to finalize once that task group is assembled and gets together.
I think that's fair, Sherman, but I appreciate Dave and Jim both jumping on that because this is the wire that we'll all be sliding down as this task force goes. So we might as well embrace the tension that's inherent in it. Right, maybe we won't finalize the verbiage today, but I like this discussion so far. highly appropriate if you ask me. So Jim, I personally, I have no objection to the addition of that language. I'd like to know what the other committees members think. I would not want to be overly hasty in abandoning the idea that alongside the goals you cited, there is a general hope that the impact that these fees have, the burden they place on students and their families, it can be minimized, right? So I want to be slow to give up on the idea that we would like to see that impact be as low as it can be.
Chair Sneeden, may I give an approach from the community colleges, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Seth Carter Colby, President Janot, I do agree with your statement there. I do think we need to look for consistency among the fees to go through and look at this. I have been provided examples where X college charges Y and then Y college charges Z. I do think we have some efficiencies that can be streamlined within that process, but also trying to be respectful to the fact that every college does operate slightly different. But if we are talking about standardized fees that are, if it's a CNA licensure costs $75, I think it's reasonable to assume it should be $75 at every institution. And I know former Chair Frederick has expressed that in the past as well. We need to work on getting that done. We have had conversations with community college presidents. I do feel we're all very receptive to going through and trying to get this information more. I do think it's important to note when we just look at those fees like that, we're looking at the aggregation of the fees. There are sometimes granular pieces of information that are not included that are hard to truly decipher why that fee is what that fee is. But I do think it would behoove all of us to do a deeper dive into that and get a better understanding of what's really going on there.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, my battery went dead and it took me about 3 minutes to get back in. So I missed a lot of what was going on. I'm in favor of talking about this some more, the task force. But I think there's a lot of things to get at, and maybe this has been said already, but visited with one community college president at the last TEA meeting and discussing their fees. They need those to operate, but at the same time, there isn't any student paying those because their foundation picks those up and pays for it. Now, that doesn't come across in any of the data we collect. And I think there's probably a lot of other scenarios similar to that where part or some of the fees are being paid. So, I don't know how you get to that, but certainly I would be in favor of having the task force again and taking a look at it.
Yeah, and if I may, just to tack on, Dave, to what you said, and both Jim and Seth, right? I think for me, and just going through this process a time or two now, it's a balance of what the colleges need and quality instruction. I've instructed at a technical college for a period of time myself, and I can appreciate and respect the value of that. I think on the surface, when we looked at it, here probably more recently on a meeting that I wasn't able to attend, but go back to the last time we reviewed, I know I had a few comments from what it looks like on paper, and this is probably mostly to Dave's point, is in some cases we're charging families several $1,000s in fees to attend some of these courses, and I think at least for me, I'll just speak for myself, that's hard to get my head wrapped around. So if there are places, if there's a way for us to be able to see as we're trying to approve these, where that entire cost doesn't necessarily fall on the family, I think that would help clear up some of what maybe at least my concerns are for the burden on some of the families, some of those more expensive courses.
Thank you, Todd. Hey, I think your mic might have a little threshold on it so that maybe your air system is causing your voice to cut in and out. I think we picked up on most of what you were saying, but maybe if you leaned in a little bit on your next comment, it would override the mic a little bit. Thank you for your input. Well, I think most of what we're hearing has a kind of alignment to it. I mean, we don't have to finalize this today. It's just to me, I tend to think that we still have a type of duty to ensure that our goal includes a type of pressure to minimize the impact of these fees if we can. Not necessarily cheapest board in the lumberyard. I appreciate that metaphor, but so Ray, what are your thoughts on what we're trying to accomplish here, just very quickly?
Yeah, first of all, going back to David's question, is there someone giving us that charge? And then I think the answer is yes. That would include members of the Board of Regents, perhaps the CEO. There are some that would say, hey, we need to eliminate all fees. I'm not sure that that's a goal that we're working towards. But I think what happens when we see numbers on a page, it's the disparity that jumps out. Why is it one thing at one college and it's 4 times that at a different college? And yes, perhaps there's justification, but certainly a need to have a better understanding of the disparity. And there are some issues or some services and provided that should be consistent, should be easy across the board. So I'm hoping that as we continue in our discussions, that we do a better job of gaining an understanding from the institutions why they have a certain number for fees. The last thing we want to do, I think, is to create another barrier for these students and use fees as a way to get some dollars in the back door, when perhaps we can take a better approach than that. And not suggesting that's necessarily what institutions are doing, but it happens other places, certainly. So I think we're on the right track. It certainly deserves more discussion, more listening to those that are in charge of these institutions, and get a better understanding of their challenges and the justification for the fees. And I'm not one that suggests that we should just go to zero. But I am one that is suggesting let's get a better understanding of the disparity at times that we seem to see, so we have, again, a better understanding of why that is. So I look forward to additional conversations and discussions, and in an effort to get to where things seem to align better. But yeah, students, we need to keep in mind that these fees can very quickly become a barrier to the parents and to the students. So it's a discussion that needs to continue, and certainly with the help and with this task team and getting the right people at the table, hopefully we can continue to work towards something that when a legislator picks up a sheet of paper and that has this information on it, that they're just not red flags jumping out off the page for them, because they're going to ask questions. There's no doubt about it. And they already are, and they already have. So, we have to be in a place that we as the TEA can answer those concerns and questions that might come to us. So
Thank you.
That's kind of where I'm at this point, Curtis.
Okay, I appreciate all of that. I do want to make sure, sound a little like high and mighty here, but was somebody taking notes? And I want to make sure we captured Jim's input for the go forward. Okay, so it strikes me that arguably the first agenda item when this task force comes together as such would be fleshing out that discussion. And it's conceivable that maybe the topic we're talking about is really at the level of the TEA itself. This task force is really to focus on the normalization of the data so that it makes those higher level decisions and approval process more consistent. I don't know. We can work that through, but I appreciate everybody's weighing in on that. And it's obviously something we're going to need to have a level of alignment around. So as you look at this proposed timeline, Sharman, did you want to walk through this, or shall we just all look at it and talk about, give our feedback on what we're seeing? Maybe.
We can do it either way. Like I said, I wanted to provide kind of a parking lot, if you will, that we use a lot in committees of some of the different items that have come up over time, and then also just kind of give us some of those milestones that we want to think about. I think one of the first things that we could do as well, and perhaps alongside actually establishing the task group, is to just reach back out to the field, provide all of the guidance that we've provided before, and kind of get a pulse of what questions are still outstanding, what are we unsure of, what still exists out there, because each year we're trying to get a little bit better and provide a little bit more guidance, a little bit more framework, and so forth. And then, like I said, I thought that it would probably be important that task group come back to the TEA by May, since that will be our last meeting for this year, to just give an update of kind of what we've done and kind of where we think we're headed, because we know that as we dive into things, other things will come up as well. And then the ongoing best practices, meeting perhaps through the summer to take a look at things. And then we know that we have the next fee update for the institutions to submit their data would be in October. So that's kind of a milestone there that we want to consider, and how all of that works. So like I said, I suspect that once we convene the task group, that this may not bear much likeness to what I've drafted here. This was just trying to kind of get arms around some of the items that I suspect will be topics and some milestones to think about.
Well, are we in alignment around the composition of the task force? Does it seem plausible that we'll have a president or CFO from each of the institutions that'd be willing to come on a Zoom like this and talk these things through, or that's the right track? Okay. And then it also seemed logical that, since this seems to be the sort of overarching topic of this committee, that we might as well just use the time and space that's carved out for this committee as the task force meeting. So unless the committee members object, perhaps we could, for the duration of this, kind of sit in session as the task force, if that's okay. At the same time, the budget committee would have met, and probably more frequently if necessary.
Yeah,
So,
this Ray, I think this is a good starting point. As far as the makeup of the task group, I think it's bloated. I think there's just something about a representative from each community college, each technical college that just makes my head want to spin. And I'm just wondering, would we not, we've got Seth, we've got Jim, they are the spokespersons for their institution, the groups. Would we really need more than that as far as representing the tech colleges and community colleges? And it's just a question.
Jim, it looks like you've come unmuted, so would you like to be
Well,
weigh in there?
I'd like to share this with our group. I imagine Seth would with his group. Here's how I kind of interpret it. You need one president from a tech college, one president from a community college, one CFO from a tech college, one CFO from a community college, not all of us.
Okay,
But for us to be able to select who those folks would be.
then I misunderstood. So,
I think I did too, to be honest with you.
That's because you're not as old as Curtis, right?
Yeah, I would agree with Ray. I mean, you were looking at a committee of well over 50 people. So I think we certainly want everybody to be heard, but at the same time, I think representatives from each side would be fine.
And,
Okay.
and I would just offer up, I apologize, because as we were writing this and rewriting this, the intention the entire time, yes, was please one from the community colleges, one from the technical colleges. And I'm looking at that, and that does definitely read a lot differently than that was intended.
Good. Okay, good clarification.
Chair
That'll be
Sneed,
much more workable. So would we just count on Seth and Jim to talk to their groups and line up who will join us? Okay.
Chair Sneed,
Okay.
may I make a statement, sir?
Yes, sir.
Would it be helpful for the TEA? I think we have looked at everything from a quantitative standpoint, because it seems like a lot of the questions we're receiving, if Colby Community College has this fee, why can Colby Community College not provide a qualitative statement about what this fee covers? Because that way you can all see all those, because as to Member Frederick's point, I think all we're seeing are potential disparities. We don't know why those disparities exist. If we could provide that information, if each institution could bring that forward, and then if you said, okay, well, that makes sense. I see why Colby's doing X. At least you have a narrative, you have some type of component. And then if you have more granular assessment or questions that need to be asked, you then have the next point to move forward with. That makes a lot of sense to me, because if we just keep getting aggregate information, and if there is disparity between it, short of us going back and asking questions on each one of those, we're never going to be able to get the questions that I think everybody desires. And I know that that's going to be more work. I completely understand that, but I think that would help alleviate some of those concerns. Does that seem like an accurate statement?
That strikes me as in line with where we want to go, is identify the material variances or the disparities, and then there should be an opportunity in the process to say, well, let me explain, there's a good reason for that. On the other hand, as you noted, like trying to do that line for line would consume the staff in every sense. They would be shriveled husks at the end of that. So there needs to be a way to kind of tune the process so that they're able to focus in on the important differences and go back to the schools and see what's up. So yeah, I think we're on the same page there. And it would be good to institutionalize that process, right? So there's just, okay, I get it. They're not necessarily shouting no at us. They're saying this one's out of the bandwidth. Can you provide a quick little explanation as to why? And goes from there.
So Chair Sneed and Director Chambers, would it be reasonable to assume, like, we have a meeting tomorrow with all the community college presidents, we could come out of that meeting and then let them know we need to elect one finance officer and one president to represent the group. We can come through and we can get that information back to you in an expedited format, and I can communicate that with Director Chambers.
That would be great.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think we could all feel free to take some more time to look over this timeline and weigh in with any tweaks you'd like to provide. But really, when the task force comes together, they'll be, the mapping will come in more earnest at that point. So what would the first meeting of this task force be? Sharon, would that the next scheduled meeting of this committee, or should we be shooting at an earlier date?
I was thinking, if we did want to try to use the Budget and Finance Committee scheduled time, that would be in the next meeting in April. But we could certainly try to convene the task group before that to kind of set up the process as we see it. That is certainly flexible. That's fluid.
Well, I personally think there could be some value in trying to bring the group that Seth and Jim help us identify together maybe that last week of March for sort of a, what do consultants call it, a kickoff, or a, kind of an orientation of what we're really trying to accomplish here, so that when we do really come in and dig in that April meeting, everybody's kind of on the same page as far as where this is going. So what does the group have a feeling about that?
Keeping in
I don't
mind,
like to, I'm sorry.
the last week in March is our TEA meeting. And so if we were wanting to at least give some structure to this task group, we would want to do it before that, I would think. I'm just looking at my schedule, and certainly some days of, I don't know how soon, Jim, you can get any feedback from the tech colleges?
We have a meeting tomorrow, similarly to Seth's group, so.
Okay. So early the week of the 17th or the 24th, I don't know what others, how that aligns with other members.
Next week is spring break for most of the institutions.
That's true.
Okay. Well, I don't want to come across like I've had too much Red Bull this morning. I just, if we can wait till April 10th, probably we can. Let's do this in a stately manner and make sure it's queued up correctly. I was just exploring possibilities there. So, do the other committee members have a strong point of view on that?
I think it'd be good if you could do it that last week in March before the TEA meeting. I don't know. I'm free, but I don't know about other people. But I think just having that preliminary meeting gets some things out of the way, and then moves things along a little faster.
Well, are we anticipating Zooming? Because I wonder if, obviously, the TEA members and Jim and Seth will probably be there in person. But I mean, we could try to arrange to convene this group at like 9:30 that day, so that, or even 9, so we could spend a little time fleshing out the scope of this thing, and then turn around and go right into the meeting. I don't know. Does that work?
That would work for me.
Yeah.
I'd be open to that.
Okay. Well, why don't we plan on having sort of the task force kickoff at 9 o'clock on the 27th. And then we'll just roll from there into the TEA meeting and really be able to report fairly in a fresh way about what we've just talked through. And then we'll get on that cadence of the next time we'll come together will be April 10th, et cetera. Does that work for everybody on the committee?
Works for me.
And Jim and Seth?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's do that. Let's do that. That gives a little impetus to what we're doing here. Okay. Well, are there any other questions about that task force at this point? I tend to think, like I say, there'll be some fleshing out that takes place on the 27th and then as we move forward. But barring any other questions, I think there was no action there, right? Madam Chambers? Okay,
Right. And I do just have one quick question, if it would
Okay.
be the pleasure at least of this portion of what will comprise the task force. If you would like I said, we could also concurrently reach out to institutions, to let them know, hey, we're going to be having some discussions. Here's the guidance and the information that we've provided previously. Do we have any outstanding questions or items that we need clarity on, to sort of get that feedback loop started as well? Or that could certainly wait.
who was the audience for your outreach there? The schools or the
Yes.
TEA members?
That would be the
Okay.
colleges.
Okay.
Yep.
I would want
I
Jim
get-
and Seth to weigh in on that, whether that would be valuable or whether you guys want to do it on your own at your next meeting.
So Sharman, you're talking about on what's on the screen, what's listed for March 2025 in the smaller box.
Right, right.
I think if we can tell our folks about that tomorrow in our meetings, but I think if you could share that to the institutions and we can spread it out. Because the goal from that is when you guys, that meeting in March while you're going over that, but really we're starting to gather information on what's in the next box down.
Right. What's still, we have a webinar each year, we have an FAQ, we have some of those guidance pieces, but what are some lingering, like I
Right.
said, questions or items that folks feel they need some clarity on?
So yeah, I think if you could share the links to that information in that box, so we could tell our folks, please review this. So if you have other questions or ideas, write them down so you can share it with our reps for that meeting on the 27th.
So
And-
we'll just send that through you guys. That's great.
And member Rice, right now, I'm actually typing an email out to send all the community college presidents so they know what we have going on. We can absolutely help with communication, whatever Director Chambers prefers or whatever the TEA would want. We're glad to assist.
Good. Thank you.
And Curtis is right. I would think also, perhaps you need to give some consideration as who's going to chair that task group. I feel like we need a point person to work, shoulder to shoulder with staff, but to keep, the conversations on target.
Well, and forgive me for jumping in on that. It's a great comment, but I think Seth and I would love to have Dave in that role because he's been in our shoes and chairs before and still understands a lot of this from the higher ed institution perspective. Not to offend anybody else, but I think it's cool having Dave on the TEA because he knows what we're going through.
I'd be willing to do that.
Okay.
Up to you, Curtis.
I think that would be terrific. You are in a position to lead those discussions in an intelligent way, kind of from the inside. So that would be fine with me.
And of course, I made a screw up with that comment of mine because I forgot Ray used to do the job too. So Ray, I apologize. Sorry.
Well, they got rid of me after 1 year, so.
Well, you were careful to say not to offend anybody, so I think you're covered. You're clean. Okay. All right. Would there be anything else we want to cover on that, or can we move on to our next agenda item very briefly? I'm eager to get this task force moving and.
I have nothing further, so.
Okay. Okay. Well, why don't we move on to item 3B and talk about the state technology internship grant recommendations. And Director Brown, I think, will tell us about that.
Yes, thank you, Chair Sneeden. Good morning. State Technology Internship Fund is part of the larger State Innovative Technology Fund appropriated by the Kansas legislature. And the internships provided by this opportunity allow CTE faculty to renew the skills and knowledge in their professions. And the internships take place usually over the summer months, but that is not required. This grant requires a partnership with business and industry and an industry match of $1 for $1, which can be cash, in kind, or a combination of the two. As you will see in the internship descriptions, this year, all partners have provided at least partial cash match of intern salary. And that is because the internship grant is capped at $30 an hour for salary and at the maximum of $6,000, which in some cases does not provide the industry standard salary for interns. And so industry likes to provide that difference with cash match to make sure that the wages are fair for the interns. Today, 3 internship proposals are presented to you for review and discussion. First, we have Christina Pruden from Highland Community College Medical Assistant Program for an internship at Mosaic Life Care, and the match will be salary cash match from the industry. The goals here are to gain knowledge and skills in direct hands-on patient care and to update knowledge in several of the medical assistant courses and to keep current trends in healthcare to be able to deliver up-to-date information to the students. Our next intern is Aaron Carnes from Washburn Institute of Technology Automotive Technology Program, and the internship will take place at Lee's Auto Repair. Sorry if I'm the match is a contribution of intern salary match and also some mentoring time from the employees at the auto repair shop. The intern will stay current with the latest technology, focusing on electrical systems, hybrid and electrical vehicles, advanced diesel systems, and new sensor technologies in diagnostics and performance. And several of the automotive technology courses will also be updated based on that internship. And last but not least, we have Richard Anderson from Washburn Institute of Technology Machine Tool Program going to GA Precision. The match will be intern salary match, as well as some training and mentoring time of the employees of the industry partner. The internship will enhance skill sets on CNC and manual training on horizontal and vertical mill producing in high precision custom parts. The intern will continue to improve skills in all aspects of machining to be able to demonstrate and teach the most current practices. Several of the courses are going to be updated and help future students to have the most updated information in the program. We do have interns on the call if you have additional questions, and the committee of board staff has reviewed the proposals and is presenting them for your discussion and approval. I will stand for question.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve that and a second, and then we can discuss it or even talk to the folks on the line with us. So does somebody make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Good. Thank you. Any discussion?
We have Richard is on the line, is that right, Anderson? Or did he have to?
No,
I'm
he's
here.
right there. Yeah,
Hi,
good.
everyone. I'll just pop in on my instructor's behalf. I'm Marie Hall. I'm the Assistant Dean for Curriculum at Washburn Tech. I know that Rich and Aaron were both able to tap into the call, but they do currently also have students. So I told them to try to participate as they were able to, unless they needed to, of course, pop in and help their students with their work. So I am here, happy to answer questions on their behalf. And I do want to thank everyone for this opportunity. I do know that our instructors that have done internships in the past have really appreciated the support from the committee and enjoyed their experiences with their business partners. So thank you. And yeah, Rich and Aaron may be able to tap in, or they may, like I said, if they don't jump in, they're helping a student.
Well, I was just curious what the connection for Rich is, this business in Kansas City, Missouri.
You know, he did do an internship with them last year, and I do know that the program allows them to do up to 2 internships every 3 years. So this would be his second time going out to this company and working with them. As far as how he got connected with them last year, I can't say that I remember where that started from, but he has built a relationship with them and worked with them before.
I'm here. What's up?
Rich, how did you get connected with GA Precision initially?
I got to meet some of their employees and was discussing different parts of components they made, and then I went and toured their shop, and that's kind of how it all blossomed.
Well, I think that's great. Just want to remind you, we got some businesses in Kansas too. Just make a note there, Rich.
Oh, I'm aware. I got multiple on the line for other years.
No, congratulations. And this program is extremely valuable. And not only for you and your career, but the information and that you pass along and the knowledge you pass along to your students. So it's congratulations.
Good. Anyone, were Aaron and Christina on? I'm sorry, I wasn't able to keep up.
We had Christina in the beginning, but I assume they're probably teaching, so I don't know if she had to leave, but we do have Aaron Carnes here as well. If you have questions for me.
Well, if there are no questions and no further discussion about this program, I would like to have a vote on that motion. And so, again, if any of the committee members wish to vote in the negative, this would be your time to say so. Hearing nothing, that motion passes. Congratulations. Thank you for that.
And we might include this on a consent agenda.
Oh, are we voting to just move it up to the TEA? Is that what this committee's
Yes,
doing?
it would go to the TEA, but you can choose to put it on the consent agenda or discussion if you'd like. But consent, usually
I agree with Ray. I agree with Ray. Okay, so maybe, yeah, the motion was for this body to recommend placement of this on the TEA's consent agenda. Is that a more precise way to put it? I didn't quite catch that. Okay. I assume nobody's vote changed, so we're good. Very good. Well, we could note a couple of meeting dates down there in your packet on page 13, but we've already talked through that. We'll see one another on the morning of the 27th and go from there. So I'm skimming here. Was there anything else on the agenda that we needed to dispense with today? Okay. Anything else the committee members would like to articulate at this point?
Move we adjourn.
It's been moved that we adjourn. Any objection? Hearing none. Thank you. Good talk. We will chat with you all on at 9 o'clock on the 27th. Thanks for your help.
Thank you all. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.